I'm in love with anything Disney. That's why today I want to show you how to make a beautiful bell cake with all the ruffles and a beautiful skirt as well. In fact, I've already done some of the Disney characters, and if you want, you can see them in my channel, or I can put them on my description box as well. So let's jump into it, as I have a few things that I want to show you straight away. First of all, what we need to do is to cut our photo so that we're going to use it as a template. The one that I've got here is one that I found on the internet, and I thought it was really nice, and I thought it was beautiful. I divided the template into one is going to be the skirt and another one is going to be the top. Then I've taken my already prepared cake and I started cutting the skirt. At the top I left a little bit so that I have already just a small piece for the body. Then I've taken one of the pieces of the cake that we cutted and I'm gonna put it at the top of it so that we're going to have more cake for the top, the head and the hair as well. And now let's cut the cake so that we have the same shape of the head and the body as well. Then afterwards I'm going to round all the edges of the cake. The next step that we need to do is to cut the cake in half horizontally so that we can fill it with our cream, with our buttercream. And at this point I should have used a cake cutter. However, as it is a small cake, I thought to use a knife, and then actually I regretted myself. It's always better, as I said on my previous video, it's always better to use a cake cutter. And now we can do the crumb coating. We can cover the whole cake with our buttercream, but also we need to make sure that we put some buttercream between each piece of the cake that we cut so that the cake is just one big piece. At this point I'm going to put the cake in the fridge and then I'm going to cover the cake 2 more times. So after a couple of hours, here I am again, and now I'm going to start making all the details underneath the skirt first. So what we want to do now is to start making lots of sausages and all the shapes that we're going to need underneath the skirt. So what I do actually is looking at the skirt, see all the details and trying to match them as much as possible. Only where the ruffles are, I'm going to leave it empty because I want to add instead oven paper first. Also, I've left the lower part of the skirt on the right and on the left empty because in here there's some extra skirt that needs to go over it. Now we can roll some yellow fondant and then we can cover the whole skirt with it, making sure that the fondant sticks very well to the cake and to what is underneath. And to do so, you need to use your fingers. You need to rub the fondant gently and just give as well some extra shape to the skirt if needed. Then if you want to add even more details, you can use the leaf shaper. Let's cut now all the extra fondant On the inside, where all the skirt ruffles are going to be, we're going to add small pieces of oven paper. We need to do this so that the fondant is going to dry in this exactly way. We don't want them to be flat, as we're going to need some room for the ruffles afterwards. On each side of the skirt, I've added more fondant, and I left the end of it empty so that I'm going to add some oven paper for the ruffles. Afterwards, I covered these two parts with more yellow modeling paste, and then I cutted the extra fondant from it. And then I tried to open up these two pieces so that the ruffles could be more visible. From the leftover fondant, we're going to keep two pieces for this part of the dress, the top one. But for the other one, we're going to add just a tiny bit of orange gel paste, and this not only is going to help us to make the top, but also some details of the skirt. And what we're going to do for the skirt is to make some sausages which are thin on each side, and then we're going to curve and put it on the skirt. On top of them, we're going to draw lots of lines so that they're going to look more drapes and more realistic. As they are really tiny, this is the best way to add them. Then we're going to add two small balls between one piece of fondant and the other one, and one white at the top of it. Now we're going to start making the body. And we're going to start from a ball which we're going to shape as a cone and has a flesh color, of course. At the top of it, on the widest part, we're going to make the neck. In the middle of it, we're going to press it with a handle brush so that we're going to make the part of the breast. And then again, with our craft knife, we're going to separate this part here at the top. And then we're going to add the yellow top with some already rolled yellow fondant. We're going to make a sausage. Then we're gonna fold it in two and cut it so that we're going to have two arms of the same size. We need to roll this part so that we're going to make the wrist. Let's cut diagonally as it is too big and flatten it a little bit. To make the thumb, we're going to cut just a tiny bit here, over here, and then open it up a little bit. And then we're going to make other 3 cuts, but just slightly cuts. We don't want to go all the way through. At the top of the piece of arm that we did, we're going to make a hole. And on the inside, we're going to add a small piece of flesh fondant, which is actually the upper part of the arm. Then we're going to apply them on each side of the body. And then we're going to add the 2 pieces at the top, which are slightly lighter. And once we're done, we're going to draw lots of curved lines as well. In the middle of it, we're going to add 3 small balls of white fondant, and as you can see, they're really tiny ones. At this point, we want to make Belle's head, and we're going to start first of all making an oval. And this one I have, it's about 10 grams, which is about 0.35 ounces. In the middle, we're going to press it with our handle brush, or if you have small fingers, you can do it with your fingers as well. And then we're gonna press it to make the part where the eyes are going to be. Meanwhile, you want to push the fondant in the middle to make the nose as well. Once you're happy with it, you can make 2 holes for the nostrils, and then we're going to draw an horizontal line to make the mouth. Afterwards, we're going to draw the eyes, and to do so, we're going to use a silicone brush, as it is soft and it's perfect for this kind of works. Then with a small ball tool, we're going to press the fondant so that it can go on the inside of it. And this is going to help us to have extra room, because we need to insert now some white fondant. Put on the inside some white fondant which has roughly the same shape and size of the eye. To make the iris, I'm going to use some green fondant. Press each small ball and then I'm going to apply onto the eye. Instead, for the pupils, I'm going to add 2 smaller black pieces of fondant, which I'm going to flat them as well. And then what we need to do next is to make the eye contouring using some small, really tiny small strips of black fondant. And at the end, I'm going to add 2 more little eyelashes, which is going to make the eyes looking really nice. And if you count, the last bit of the contouring is like you have 3 eyelashes for each eye. Between the pupil and the iris, I'm going to add some catches on the eyes with some white color using a really small brush. Instead, at the bottom of the eye, I'm going to paint a very small line with brown gel paste, so that it's going to make the eye pop up a little bit more, but still is nice and delicate. Then afterwards, I'm going to paint the red lips, but after a while I realized that these lips are too dark, so I've actually removed some of the color using a damp brush. And finally, because the face is still a little bit pale, we need to add some color dust. But before adding the head onto the body, we need to cut diagonally the neck. So now we can start adding the beautiful hair that Belle has, which are many small pieces of brown fondant. And then while I was putting them onto the head, I was keep looking at the picture that I had with me, at the photo that I had with me, and try to make them as similar as possible. However, it doesn't have to be exactly the same, but similar enough. And as you can see, I kept adding many stripes of hair. Then I've added some more pieces at the top to cover the head, and then I add more pieces at the front top of the head as well. And then finally I add an oval at the top of the head. And then to make the hair effects look a little bit more realistic, I'm going to draw lots of lines using the leaf shaper on the side of the pointed tool. What we need to do as well to make Belle a little bit nicer is to add some roses, which are going to be red and yellow, but I'm going to show you how to make only the red ones, as the others are exactly the same. So the first thing that I do is to cut many circles using a bigger straw. And then what I need to do is a long rectangle to make the middle, the inside of the rose. Each circle, to look like more a petal, needs to be pressed, and also you need to give a longer shape as well. Now we have everything ready, and what we need to do is to roll the rectangle that we made to make the center of the rose. At the bottom, I'm going to roll it between my fingers to make it a little bit thinner, which is going to help me to make the rose a little bit easier. Now I'm going to add 5 petals all around the rose. So 5 is the perfect number. However, if it happens that you put your petals one too narrow next to the other, you might need an extra petal, which is fine. I'm sure that no one is actually going to count all the petals on the rose. Done. Now we need to put them onto the head. Once the yellow fondant on the skirt is dry, we can start adding our ruffles. And what we need to do is to roll some white fondant, make lots of small stripes, and then roll them. And then afterwards we can put them inside our skirt. But obviously you don't want them to be all stuck one to another. So what you want to do is to add some pins so they can have some room instead, and they can look even nicer and with a nicer movement as well. And this will be removed at the end when the white fondant is dry and it won't move anymore. Before adding the body onto the cake, what we want to do is to cover this piece of cake with just some white fondant. Remove any extra fondant all around the cake. And now we can finally add the body onto the cake, which is a nice part. And finally we can remove the pins as well. And what I like to add as well, to give a little bit extra sparkle to the cake, is these edible glitters, which are really amazing, and I think they make a big difference onto the cake. I hope you find this video really useful and interested, and if so, don't forget to thumbs up and to subscribe to my channel if you want to see this kind of videos more in the future. But it's all for today, and see you next week. Bye bye!